Hello there, my name is Ron, and I'm so glad to be here with you for the next 1 hour at the HarvestHouse Family TV Show. I'll be treating a few questions about family finance, personal finance, and I believe it's going to be value for your time. Thank you. Okay, so during your courtship, you should actually talk about everything: family, finance, everything that you need to talk about. Okay, because that's the phase actually that you're going to start getting to know the philosophies, the principles, the beliefs of the person that you intend to marry. So this is how I see it. You may not know everything at that phase, but the little that you know, you should bring it on the table, put it on the table. So for instance, you should discuss what your career objectives will be, because your career objectives will eventually determine your income. So you should discuss that. You should discuss what your budget formula will be like. Okay, so everything that has to do with your finances, you should talk about it. I'm going to talk about the principle of percentages. At that phase, your income may be at a particular bracket, but you need to be able to know what you're going to allocate to what area of need. So for instance, you don't have children at that phase. Okay, even when you get married, your first 1 year, you don't have children, but you should have an idea of the percentage of your income that you're going to put aside, for your children, the schooling, their clothes, and all these kind of things. And so everything should be discussed. Everything that has to do with your finances, wherever your money will go, your investment philosophy, your spending principles, and so on and so forth. So yes, I believe at that phase, it's a very crucial topic that we need to discuss and agree on before we go further. Okay, financial freedom actually is more, I believe, is more of a mindset than a state. Or let me put it this way: it starts more from the mind and then ends up being a state. Financial freedom is simply not working for money. Okay, not having to work for money. And I think that's more of a mindset. However, so when you begin with that mindset, you should be able to actually grow your finances to a point where you are no longer under obligation. That is, if you don't work, you will not eat. You need to get to that point where your investments, your assets, and other things around you can generate revenue, equal to what you would have generated if you were physically working. So I would say financial freedom is not having to work for money. That's where you get to a state where your money can work for you, your assets can produce enough to cover your bills and to even give you enough to invest. So I believe that is financial freedom. So family budget. Genesis, I think, is 45 or 45, somewhere around there. I saw something very interesting about how Joseph was able to solve the national problem when he got to the administrative part, apart from interpreting the dream and all that. So these guys came to Joseph and they said, our money is gone, our assets are gone, our land is gone, give us seed. And then Joseph said, okay, I'm going to give you the seeds, you're going to sow the land. And when you sow the land, then Joseph divided what their income should be used, how their income should be used. He said, so it will come to pass that when you get your harvest, 20% should go to Pharaoh, that's the person who owns the land now. 20% should go to you. 20% should go to sow the field, beg your pardon, that is reinvestment. 20%, that's a fifth, should go to you. A fifth should go to your children for their food, and 20% to your household. So he broke it down into 20, 20, 20, 20%. So when it comes to budgeting also, what you need to do is to allocate percentages to specific areas of your life. So for instance, you allocate a percentage to, of course, to tithing, offering, special offerings, giving and all that. It should be a definite percentage of your income that goes into things like that. That's where structure comes in. Then of course, a percentage of your income should go into your housekeeping. How do you manage your home? How do you do a percentage of your income? Not a fixed figure, but a percentage. And then of course, you move from there. How much goes into investments? What percentage goes into the investment? What percentage goes into savings for maybe your children's school, your children's clothing, your children's, everything you want to do for your children? How much goes into that? So budgeting basically is just apportioning a percentage of your income to a specific area of your life. And you will determine what those important areas of your life are. So I think, of course, giving to God should come topmost. Then after that comes investment. The sad part of it is that most people invest what is left. They don't invest, by design. They just invest whatever is left. So you apportion those areas and then you put percentages to it. The good thing about percentages is, as your income increases, the percentage remains constant, but the volume of money that you have to spend on that particular area now increases. Do you understand? So, for instance, if your income is 100,000 and then you allocated 10% to a particular thing, when your income moves to 500,000, it is still 10%, but what you now have to spend moves from 10,000 to 50,000. So it makes it very simple. So if you think that the amount you have to spend on something is small, all you have to do is increase your income. Once you increase your income, then the amount becomes more, even though the percentage is the same. So headache is peculiar to the owner. Only the owner of the money knows what is important to him. Let me just give you a very simple illustration. I have friends, and people have different things that they enjoy doing. Some people like partying. Some people like watching movies, seeing movies, going to the cinemas. Some people just like trips, And I used to feel very guilty because I'm not really caught up for these, any of those things, and so I used to think I'm not a fun-loving person and all that. But I realized I like animals. And I decided, okay, if I like animals, let me invest in animals. Let me just do what I like, because that's what I like. So I started buying different kind of animals. And then, people will hear I got this kind of animal and they'll ask you, what do you want to do with it? And I told them nothing, I just like it. So this is where I'm going. What you call essential or important will be determined by the person who is calling it essential or important. Okay, so whatever is priority to you, then becomes essential to you. But what you now need to do to draw a clear line is to know what a liability is and what an asset is. Anything that is taking money from you, especially if it is taking money from you unnecessarily, is a liability and is not essential. Okay, and that can be anything that takes money from you and is taking money from you unnecessarily. That definitely cannot be an essential thing. Anything that puts additional funds into your pocket becomes extremely important, because you need to increase your income. Now, it's not everything that you put your money into that will put money back into your pocket in the short run or even in the long run. Some things are just necessary. They're just important you do them. Okay, so you need to have a checklist and ask yourself very important question. I think people are really not honest with themselves where finances are concerned. People are just sentimental. Ask yourself honest question. This thing I want to put my money into, how much sense does it make? What's the value of this thing? What's the return on this, if there's going to be any return? If there's not going to be any cash return, do I have an emotional return on it? Do I have, ask yourself those questions, and then you draw the line, find out what is important and what is not important. And whatever is important to you, go full throttle on it. Do whatever it is that you believe is truly important to you. Because eventually, it is what is important to you that is going to give you joy. So, being honorable, you need to understand that you have to, if you have debts, you have to structure the repayment of your debt. And let me just deal with repayment of debt before I come to bills. In repaying your debt, you don't have to kill yourself. Again, you follow percentages. If you have a lot of money to pay and you are able to, that's why I would recommend this book anytime, The Richest Man in Babylon. There's a chapter on the richest man in Babylon that deals with how to pay debt. There's a percentage of your income that you can put into that will make it possible for you to be able to clear the debt over time without destroying yourself. Okay, if you give everything that you earn to pay debt, you won't survive till the next month to earn another money. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. So give a percentage, but you have to be consistent and you have to be committed to it to clear whatever your bills are. And of course, don't incur debts unnecessarily. Now, when it comes to bills, you need to know the bills that you have to pay. You need to know the ones that, so for instance, bills come from the things that we either buy or not. There are things that you must have. There are things that you should have, and there are things that you can have. Okay, so you have the must, the should, and the can. So when you're also paying bills, prioritize your bills based on those things. The things that you must pay, Okay, you have to pay your house rent, for instance, or else you'll be kicked out. You have to pay your children's school fees, or else they'll be sent out of school. So there are things that you must do. So when you earn your money, those particular bills are things that you cannot call your money. It's no longer your money. Once you earn it, you set it aside. There are things that you must do. Okay, and then there are things that you should do. That if you don't do, it's not as if anything really consequences will not be that big. And of course, it's just important that you do those things. Then you prioritize those, and then there are things that you can. Okay, that is, if it is possible for you to do, you can do it. So it's important that you categorize your bills in must, should, and can. And of course, you give priority to what you must give priority to, and then the things that you should do, and then of course the things that you can do if you're able to do it. If you're able to do this, your life will be easier. As long as you're a human being and you're on this side of heaven, I think this will be a question you keep having to deal with. Even when you have everything that you think that you are dreaming of now, once you get to that point, you're going to wish you have more. Okay, so my point is, what you say is not enough is really not enough. It's just your mindset. So the Bible says, to him that has, more will be given. And then to him that has not, that which he has will be taken from him. So the Bible recognizes that even the person that says he has not, he has something. I mean, that's just interesting. To him that has, more will be given. To him that has not, that which he has. I thought you said he has not. Where are you getting what you are taking from him? It means he has, actually. So there's no, so when you say something is not enough, it's just in your mind, really. It's in your mind. Let me give another example. Somebody earns 100,000, he has a family of 4. He's complaining that the money is not enough. Somebody else is earning 500,000. He has a family of 4. He's complaining the money is not enough. Somebody else has a family of 4. He's earning $1 million. He's complaining the money is not enough. The guy who's earning $1 million and saying the money is not enough. How come the guy earning 100,000, even though he's complaining the money is not enough, he's still alive and is taking care of that family? Money can never really be enough in that regard, okay? Because you will always wish you had more. So you need to first establish that whatever you have now is more than what somebody else has and is surviving on. Okay, so for instance, when people say the money is too small, I can't save, and then I ask you, you are earning 100,000, you say it's too small, you can't save. Somebody else is earning 90,000, saying it's too small, you can't save. Somebody is earning 50,000, saying it's too small, you can't save. Why can't you take 20,000 out of your 100,000 and convince yourself your income was 80,000 and live on the 80,000 anyway? I mean, so that's just the mindset. So how do you save on what is not enough? Take out your savings and convince yourself that what you have left is what you have originally, and you live on that. Okay, so the idea of joint account and unified pocket and all that. Well, yes, it stands to reason that the person who has, once you're contributing less, it's like we're doing a pool of, those days when we were in school, the 5 guys want to eat. Somebody supplies the rice, somebody supplies the vegetable oil, somebody supplies the eggs. It's the guy who supplies the Maggi that wants to share the food, Of course, so you put in the least, yet you want to take the highest value. So yeah, it could be possible. That's an opportunistic mindset and mentality. It's just what it is. However, the concept of joint account is extremely controversial, but I think it's an opinion that the parties involved will decide what to do. I know people, I used to know a couple many years ago that ran a joint account, and even though they had a joint account, the husband will issue a check, tear off the check, those were the days of check, tear off the leaf, and then remove the counter check, pull it out so that the wife wouldn't know that he has, so what's the use of running a joint account if you're not going to be truthful about it, and there are people that don't run a joint account, but they do joint spending. That is, whatever comes into that family, they plan what they do with their money. So whether you put the money in the same account or you don't put it in the same account, what is important is transparency, accountability, and openness. So the decision to put your money together or keep it separate, belongs to the couple. What do I recommend? Well, I think you can do either, but I don't run a joint account. I don't. So I don't know. So I think it depends on your maybe personality, principle, whatever. But it is important that you are open, you are transparent, and you are fair. You may be earning more right now, and tomorrow your spouse may earn more than you. So remember, do unto others as you have them do unto you. Okay, so if you're earning more right now, be fair, be transparent, be accountable. And if the tables turn tomorrow, your spouse should also be fair, should be accountable, and should be transparent. There's nothing wrong with running a joint account if your personality types and your temperaments can accommodate. Some people can't simply do it, not because they are not good people, but just their personality can't take it. So find out what works for you and then use it. None of these things will be cast in stone. So personal allowance, yeah, you can spoil your wife, you can give her personal allowance and all that. But remember, when you give somebody something once, the person is grateful. When you give him twice, the person begins to expect. You give the person thrice, the person turns it to what's the word now? The person takes it as a right or something that that you owe him or her. So there's nothing wrong about it. You can give your spouse personal allowance. You can do all that, and it's nice. It's good to indulge your spouse, especially from a man to a woman. But I think I will always say that both the husband and wife should meet somewhere in the middle, especially where finances are concerned. The woman should be considerate. Sometimes you see women, and it's not only women, they're very responsible men, but sometimes you see women placing a demand on a man that is beyond what he's able to do, especially when it comes to asking for maybe allowance or stipends and things like that. I gave an example the other day how if a man and a woman, they're earning, let's even say the guy is earning more than the wife. By the time you look at what the responsibility of the guy is and how much is left at the end of the day, you will find out that sometimes the woman actually has maybe 3 times or 4 times the amount that the guy has at the end of the month. Yet the woman will still claim the guy doesn't give her money. You are richer than him, really, because he's carrying all the load. So I think there should be fairness, there should be openness, and you should just be considerate. You should just be considerate. So if the man can indulge your wife, and there is nothing that stops a woman from also reaching out to her husband. I mean, the greatest gift a man can give a woman, my candid opinion, is empowerment. It's empowerment. It's not money. It's empowerment. That's my candid opinion. So spoil yourselves. Make it a two-way thing. Spoil your wife. Spoil your husband. You'll be glad you do. So when you say equal say over our money, yes, that's where accountability and openness and all that comes in. That is, before you do something, you should bring it to the table. Even if you were the one that earned the money, you should bring it to the table. Let's have a conversation. Don't do a major spending or major investment without discussing it with your spouse. It's just fair. You can't make a major purchase and then, like I saw in the video, a young guy ordered, some children ordered a large screen TV with their mom's credit card, and their dad knew about it. It was very funny stuff like that, But the idea is, don't make a purchase or anything that is major without carrying your spouse along. Okay, it's just fair. That is extremely important. And whatever you're doing together, whether the money is in the same account or is in separate accounts, if the other person knows about it, it just shows that you have respect for the person's opinion where that is concerned. So I think it's extremely important that both parties are in the know, whether it's an investment or it's just a spending. You should be in the know. So if you understand what I said by percentages, if a woman earns more and she seems to be spending more, but she's not necessarily doing more in terms of a percentage, I don't think she's carrying more responsibility. So let me make it very clear. I like figures, so I like to give figures. If a guy is earning 100,000 and a woman is earning a million, for instance, if the guy drops 20% of his income as fees for the children's schooling, 20%, that's 20,000. If the wife drops 15% of her income for the children's schooling, that's 150,000. The woman is not carrying more responsibility. She has played a part and she has even done less in terms of percentage. The guy has done 20% of his income. You've dropped 15%. Now you have 170,000 to send your children to school. it looks like you have dropped more figures, but look at it in terms of percentage. This is so percent of your income. Okay, so because if you don't drop that, the 100% of the guy's income cannot even afford the school. So he would have to put the kids in a school that the percentage of his income can accommodate. So what I think the way you should look at it is not in terms of volume. I don't ever think you should look at contribution in terms of volume. If you do that, you're going to miss it. No wonder Jesus stood over the treasury. People were giving their offerings, okay, and he said this woman has given more than everybody else because it's a function of percentage. She has given all. That's 100%. So somebody who drops, for instance, a guy who drops 60% of his income is earning 100,000 to cater for the house, the domestics. Okay, the wife drops 10% and it's 100,000, and then you said the woman has done more. She has not done more. She has not done more. The figure of her percentage is higher, but what she has dropped is just 10% of her income. So if you look at it that way, you wouldn't see somebody taking more weight. So, but what I think, the way I think this should play out is that the guy should do more in terms of percentage, not necessarily in terms of volume. So if his income is higher, and then the percentage is higher, of course the volume will be higher. But if his income is lower, as long as he does more in terms of percentage, he has done more than you. That's the solid rock truth. He's done more than you. You know, and you should stop assessing each other in terms of volume. Just look at it in terms of percentage of contribution to whatever it is you want to do, and that's going to help you a lot. So I think the last question answers this. Okay, this kids' school should be determined by whatever you're able to put together as your budget, your allocation for schooling. So say for instance the guy drops X, the wife drops Y, and then you have that amount. That will now determine the kind of school you can afford. So whether it's not dependent on the man's income, it's not dependent on the woman's income. If both of you have agreed that both of you will contribute in sponsoring your children through school. I know families where it's the man's sole responsibility to pay the fees. The downside of that is that the man will only be able to put the children in the kind of school that his budget can accommodate. You know, if the wife is not contributing. But if the woman is contributing, then you have more resources, and then of course that amount now determines what you're able to do. But I've seen cases where even when the man is cash strapped, if the wife gives money, it's a loan, she will collect it back. You know, so then the schooling will be at the mercy of the guy's income. So I think both parties, once they've discussed their finances, put the amount together, and then what the amount comes to determines the kind of school that you can afford. Remember, don't send your children to school that you cannot afford. So this is another very dicey question. I think it's an opinion question. Whether you buy it individually or you buy it separately, if you're married to someone and she has a marriage certificate, if you buy a property in your name, I don't see how her name is excluded from it, really. Whether you put the name on the agreement or you don't put the name on the agreement on the property. So that's my opinion. As long as you're married, it's something that has brought you guys together. But should you buy it in? It depends on your choice. If you like, you can buy it together. If you like, if it works for you. But my own thinking. So you know, I said some of these questions are opinion. My own thinking is, I think that if a man is trying to empower a woman, okay, let me just use myself as an example. I don't think my wife will want to buy a property and I will insist she should put my name on it. I don't see any reason. I believe that whatever she wants to do, two whole people come together in marriage, to form a couple. Okay, two distinct, separate people. So I believe that each person, as an individual, can have things, you know, that they own as individuals. And doesn't mean that that each person cannot use what the other party has. That's my own opinion, you know. But I've seen couples where they buy things together. Everything they do, they buy it together. If it works for them, fine. Whether you buy it separately, the consciousness is, you know, you can buy things together and you are still divided in your spirit. You know, it's just like couples that wear same clothes. You know, that you wear same clothes does not mean you are close, you know. And that you wear separate clothes does not mean your hearts are not knitted together. So it's just what works for you. So you can buy properties together if it works for you, but that you don't buy properties together does not mean that what you have, your couple does not, your partner does not have access to those things. So it depends on what works for you as a couple. So this one again is another opinion question, but I think it's wise to give jointly. I think it's wise. One of the things is even to children, to your children, not just siblings and parents, to your children. If you are not careful, your children will manipulate you. They'll collect from you, collect from your wife, collect from children they can see the crack and they can use it against you. So I think it's better if you're giving something to either parent, just say this is from us to you, even if you are the one giving the person. You understand? So that does not exclude your spouse. So you can't go give your parents something and then you give an impression that you are the one doing this one. Your wife has to do something to match up. I mean, you are one, you're together. So you give something, let them know this is from us to you. Whether siblings, parents, anybody, this is what we are giving you. It's just better. However, some people just like showmanship. You want everybody to know this is what I'm doing and all that. But to strengthen your family, it's better you give. Yeah, you give and let them just know this is coming from us to you. I think it's better that way. Beautiful question. So one of my very good friends, one of our pastors in HarvestHouse, a man I respect a lot. I learned this from him. It's Pastor Wale Akeola. He has a budget for welfare. Okay, he has a budget, and once he exhausts the budget for that welfare in a month, you have to wait for next month for your crisis to be if it's the one that God will use for you. So, but the moral of this is that don't respond to other people's emergencies. When I say don't respond, do what you can, but don't play God in anybody's life. If a friend needs something and you're able to, the Bible says, withhold not good from them that is due, when it is in the power of your hands to do it. Okay, so know when you are able to respond, and when you're able to do, please do it. And of course, again, it's important that you do it as representing your family. Friends can also be funny. They can ask for money from the wife, ask from the husband separately, and then you are burning your candles from both ends. So you give the person and let them know this is from us to you, but stay within your budget. Except the Holy Spirit now gives you a direct instruction, because there could be time like that the Holy Spirit will tell you do this specifically. But when it just comes to the daily operations, of course, stay within your budget. If you have an allocation for welfare, stay within that budget and that allocation for that welfare within that month and that space, and so that you won't save up your monies for other people's emergencies. And that happens a lot. You would have saved and saved and saved. You know what it takes you to save and build up over 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, and then somebody walks up to you and says he has this emergency, and he expects you to use your own savings to meet his own emergency, which is a product of his own lack of discipline to be able to save money. I mean, that's a really unfair place to be, and the person will emotionally blackmail you if you don't respond. So you need to be able to develop that strength of character to be able to resist and overcome those kind of emotional blackmails. I can't tell you what percentage of your money to give to God. You decide the percentage of your money to give to God ultimately. But I think there is a guide. But I can't tell you. So of course, you have your basic 10%, which is God word. You don't share your tithe. You don't, no matter how much it is. If it's $1 billion, the whole 1 billion goes into God's house. Okay, so you can't share that. And because we know in the Bible that tithing is not the only given to God, it's just the basic. You have different kinds of other offerings. Okay, and then apart from offerings, so if tithing is the basic your 10%, which is the basic, it means the minimum that you can possibly give to God is 10%. It means you are going to give to God even more than that. So you have your tithe, you have offerings, you have different types of offerings, and then you have some other givings that are not even God word. So for instance, you talk about the prophet offering. The prophet's offering is not going to God, it's going to a prophet. Okay, it's going to a man that you're honoring. Okay, then you have giving of alms, you have all those kind of things. So then you have giving to parents, giving to. So this is how it works. You decide what percentage you want to give to God. Your tithe is your basic, and then you can say, okay, 15% of my income goes to God, 20% of my income goes to God, 10% tithe, the remaining 10% offerings and other kinds of givings, and then also decide what goes to whatever other kind of offerings that you decide that. Okay, but make sure it's something that you can do, something that you can sustain. Do you do it jointly? Well, it's up to you. As long as the money gets to God ultimately, whether so for instance, do I bring my tithe? Do I put my tithe in an envelope or do I transfer it? Those are just methods. They are not the end goal. So if you say you pay your tithe separately, the husband earns X, the wife earns X, Y, and then you pay your tithe. At the end of the day, as long as your percentage that you have dedicated as your tithe, whether it's 10% or a bit more, as long as everything gets to God's house, I mean, it's done. Whether you put it together, whether you do it separately, whether you do it at once, whether you do you get what I'm trying to say? So that's not really that important. However, if you choose to aggregate your funds and do it at once, it's fine. There's no law against it. But I'm just saying these things are not set in stone. They are not cast in stone. You can't make a law out of it. So if it works for you to do it separately, fine. If it works for you to do it together, it's fine. But the most important thing is that what needs to be done should be done, and you should be methodical about it. You should be methodical about it. So working as a team is not just with your finances. It starts with the way you think, the way you see yourselves. Some people are in a marriage and they are competing. I remember Rev told us a story some years ago how I think it was a lady. She bought a car, took it home, showed her husband. In fact, her husband told her husband about it. Her husband didn't check the car. A week after, for 1 week, he didn't check the car in the same house. A week after, he went to buy his own. And then he said, does she think she's the only one that is working? Okay. Now, obviously, you will see that in that kind of home, there is no team spirit. They're competing. The guy wants to prove a point. So it's not just about finances. It's an attitude. But where finances are concerned, to work as a team, there has to be understanding and agreement. That's what team spirit is all about. And you are more goal oriented goal or result oriented than who got the job done oriented. It's not so much about I did it or she did it. It's more about we have done it ultimately. So both of you contribute, both of you work together to get the job done, to get the goal executed. So I think if you are selfless and you're not really particular about who did what, you will work better as a team. So there has to be something that you're both working towards. There has to be a commitment, and your finances your money has to be where your mouth is. There has to be a commitment. And I just think that one of the things that solves family issues, there's nothing that solves family finance more than percentages. Once you understand it and you work it, you're going to take a lot of burden off yourselves. So if, for instance, you are trying to run a project and we both agree, this is what we're trying to do, this is the amount that we need, and then this is the percentage of my income that is going to go into it. Nobody's going to feel cheated at the end of the day when the project is executed, when the job is done, and somebody feels, but I give 70% of the worth of this project. But that 70%, what percentage of your total income was it? Because the guy has done, or the lady has done, all that she could possibly do to achieve that goal. That's what team spirit is all about. Okay, everybody putting what they have on the table, and at the end of the day, when the job is done, nobody's trying to take the glory for it because he thinks he has done more than the other party. And this is extremely important where family finance is concerned. Investment is a masterclass on its own. I mean, there's just no way I can exhaust this, where investment is concerned. But, I said earlier, while I was handling one of the questions, that if you invest what is left, you will not invest because nothing will be left. That's the way money works. So I think you should invest first, don't invest last. This is a bit more difficult for people who are salary earners, or people who make little money over time. When I say little money, whether you're making money daily, you can make little money every day and then over a month. It's a bit more difficult because it's difficult to invest a small amount of money. You may need to grow the money a bit before you can invest it. So that's where savings comes in. So for instance, if somebody is a salary earner, you may need to save a percentage of your income over 12 months before you can have a sizable chunk of money, and then you can now invest that money. If you are somebody who does projects and you do things like that, you can earn a huge chunk of money and just move from income to investment. Or for people who have to first save, it becomes a little bit more technical and difficult. But for a family, however your income is, So it's always, of course, so it's wiser for a family for one person to be a salary earner to give stable, steady income, or somebody to have steady income. Let me put it that way. At least one person to have a steady income. The other person can be a project person who earns, and all that. But it's better that way. Now we have different types of family mix where that is concerned, but it's just better. So somebody, at least one person like that. But however your income, whatever your income looks like, it's important you prioritize investment. Now, investments are of different forms and types. Like I said, I can't exhaust it here, but let me just say this. If you put your money into something that you have to monitor, that's not exactly an investment. That's another business. Another business. It's not an investment. Essentially is something that can generate a return on that investment with minimal input. That is, you are not distracted from your core, and that money is working for you while you're doing what you're doing, and that money can generate interest on that investment. That's number one. Number two, you must ensure that you are more security conscious than interest conscious. A lot of people have lost their principal because they are so you're putting $500,000 into what you call an investment, because there's a promise of a 300,000 that will be added to that $500,000. But you're not asking at what risk level. Is it risk level 10, risk level 15, risk level 100? Okay, because the higher the risk, then possibly the higher the level of return. But of course, at that level, you should be more security conscious. Your principal must be secure, even if the interest is lower. Maybe you're going to get maybe like just 75,000 on your 500,000, but you're sure your 500,000 is not going anywhere. Than exposing 500,000 to a risk that at the end of the day, you lose the 500,000, you lose the 300,000. So the first is whatever, prioritize investment. Number two, prioritize the security of your principal, of your capital. And then, of course, you grow from there. Now, there are different types of investment. Remember, I said whatever you need to put your energy into is not an investment, it's another business. And people have 6 things that they're doing, and they call those 6 things investments. But you'll find out that all those 6 things, they're pulling them left, right, and center. Those things they're not investment, they're other businesses. So ensure that what you're putting your money is truly an investment. Then there are different types of, I call them assets categorization. There are assets that will just appreciate in value. They will appreciate in value. While they're appreciating in value, they are not reproducing for you. Okay, so put your money in appreciating assets is very good. Put your money in appreciating and reproducing assets that will appreciate and then they will reproduce. So as it's growing in worth, it's also giving you other little things that can also grow in worth. Let me give you a very typical example. If you have a block of shops or you have a house, if you have a story building, maybe a 4 flat, for instance, that 4 flat will appreciate in value. Let's assume you bought it 25 or 30 million. It will appreciate in value over a period of time. And while it is appreciating in value, it will be generating annual rental for you over that period of time as well. Okay, so you have appreciating and generating, appreciating and reproducing. So just put your money in any of those kind of things, but be sure that your principal is safe and secure. Also, when you put your money in an investment, consider the inflation rate so that the return that you're going to get on that investment should be higher than the inflation rate. If your inflation rate is 8% and you put your money in an investment that the return on investment is 6% annual, at the end of 1 year you would have lost 2% of your money. Okay, so that's how it works. Do the math and then put your money in it, but just ensure that you are not spending all you are earning. And let me just say this on this question: the purpose of savings is not for emergency. The purpose of savings is investment. Once your philosophy is that the purpose of savings is emergency, there will always be emergencies. There will always be emergencies. But the primary purpose of savings is investment. And the purpose of investment is growth in your capital, growth in your resources. When your investment begins to grow, you don't begin to spend the excess on the investment. You reinvest. I think the smartest thing to do is to give yourself maybe a 10-year investment phase, where by the 10th year, your investment should be giving you more than your end effort is giving you. Now, how do people know when they can retire? When you can retire, when your income from your investments, the thing that you don't have to do anything about, when that return on investment is equal to or higher than what your salary is. At that level, then you can retire. Because it means if you stop working, you will still keep earning at that same level. Okay, so that is that. Okay, how do you secure the future of your children financially? Just invest for your children. So, education is a major investment in any child's life. The quality of education, you know, uh, not just education, not just classroom education, exposure, and all those kind of things. However, it's important that you don't spend everything you have now on what you call education now. There should be a percentage of what you have allocated to your children's education or children. There should be a percentage that goes to prepare something for the future for those children. It's just extremely important. So it looks like the things you have to do, there are so many, but just follow percentages. Don't stress yourself. If it's 2%, whatever the 2% is, just put it aside. As you are faithful at that level, as God increases you, you will begin to see how that 2% moves from just 2,000 naira, 3,000 naira, 5,000 naira, moves to 50,000, moves to 100,000, moves to 500,000. Okay, just stay faithful with whatever percent, but make sure that you are putting something aside, and it is dedicated to those children. Whether it is for their tertiary education or even if it is for their life settlement. It's not just sending kids to school and say, I've done what I can do. You can give them soft landing, in different areas of life, whether it is to empower them for a business or empower them for different things. So put a fraction aside and keep adding money to it and keep money. And then of course be smart. Don't save money in a currency that would be devalued or would depreciate. One. Number two, don't save money that the rate of inflation, of course, that's what I said, that the inflation rate will be higher than whatever return you're getting on it. So find a way to keep that money ahead of inflation and make sure you're generating some return on that investment as you go along. Extremely important. Of course, real estate is not a bad option at all. There's a simple psychology behind real estate that makes the maths easy. The size of land that we have is constant. The population is increasing. With increase in demand and constant supply will come increase in price. It's just logical. So you cannot miss it buying land. You can't. The only issue you may have is securing the land, and all those kind of things. But that you will buy a land for 1 million now, and in 10 years' time, the land will now be 500,000. It is impossible. It can never happen. So that's it. So children should be introduced to money management to management. So you see, when you say money management is management of anything. It's a mindset, and once you have, is either you have it or you don't have it. If you have a management mindset, it will reflect from the way you manage space, the way you manage assets, resources, the way you manage time, and of course the way you manage money. So you should introduce children to management as soon as you start communicating with them. Let them know how things should be handled, how things should be utilized, how things should be maximized, how things should be optimized. Once you do that, when they begin to deal with cash, you will just notice that thing is already inbuilt in them, the management mindset. And when we say management, we're not talking about the poverty mentality. That's all we're talking about. But to let people know that certain things can be maximally utilized, certain things can be optimized. Okay, whether it is time, resources, their clothes. Okay, whatever it is, just teach them and show them space can be maximized. You will know parents that will tell you have a notebook, and then you flip through your children's notebook, and then you see a lot of spaces, and then you ask, so what did you keep all these spaces for? Okay, why don't you do it this way? Let them see what you're using 1.5 exercise books for. You can use one exercise book and get this thing done. You are building something into the subconscious of that child. You're not asking the child to have poverty mentality and is writing on the sideline. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying whatever it is that you have, you know how to maximize it. So once you begin to train children like that, when you introduce them to finances, it becomes easy. Okay, teach a child to save. Even though you were the one that gave the child money, teach the child to save. Okay, I used to ask my children, that somebody gives them some money or I give them money. So I ask you, so now I've given you this amount. What do you intend to do with it? And of course, children, the first thing is pizza, something. So you take this whole money, and then in 15 minutes, everything is gone. They ask, so okay, after that, what do you gain from that? A satisfying meal. I tell them, no, life doesn't work that way. So I ask, what if this money can double in 3 months? Have you thought about that? It means you can get double of that pizza. Okay? It means you can do this. So you begin to show them, and then you tell them, no. You don't spend all you earn. As a matter of principle, you don't spend all you earn. And all that. So you begin to introduce these concepts to them from a very young age, and then you help them have an increased mentality, a possibility mentality to know that whatever you have now, and let me just say this. Yeah, I believe that delayed gratification is one of the proofs of faith. One of the proofs of faith. You see, what you are doing now shows your faith. What you are refusing to do shows your faith. So I was having a conversation with a friend, and I said, if you know right now that you are going to be a billionaire, or maybe there's a check already for 20 billion, dated December 28th of the next year, and you know from a source that you know it cannot fail, what will be your attitude right now? Will you be doing certain things now to impress people, or to try to show people you have it, or you will have entered into rest? Why? Because you know that's a reality, and it's just a few days or a few months ahead of you. So when you see people, the way they live, the way they eat, people eat as if they will eat another meal tomorrow. It's a proof that you don't have faith in tomorrow. If you know you're going to eat a better meal tomorrow, why do you want to die eating one meal today? You get what I'm trying to say? So teach children that the future is as real as the present. Whatever you are refusing to do in the present does not mean you will not do it at all. Is that you have faith in the existence of that future, and you know you're going to get to that future. That is why you are living today as today is supposed to be lived, to ensure that you get, so that's the way it works. So teach the children, show them, teach them delayed gratification, teach them how to manage time, how to manage resources, how to use things. You will be shocked at how some children have utter disregard for things, assets. You give a child a phone, and it destroys the phone, and the parent goes and you replace the phone. You're not teaching the child. Let the child know the value of what you have given him or her. Okay, so these are things that helps people. Eventually when they grow older. My daughter, I can't even count how many laptops she has used. That we gave her, and then now she's way older, and then she bought a laptop for herself. You needed to see the way she was pampering that laptop. So I said, okay, so now it is yours. You know how to take care of it, but other people's laptop or the ones. So this is how it works. But you need to teach people the value of things and how to manage those things effectively. Because eventually it will tell in the financial management philosophy or person. So the basic ingredient for faith to work is the word of God. Okay, so you need the word for faith to work. So how do you build your faith? The first is you have a word on which you are going to build that faith, that you're going to, the premise for the faith. So if you want to work as a family where financial increase is concerned, get God's word, financial increases, promises. And you see, when you're getting promises, don't just stay at getting promises. Find out what instructions, because promises are things that God will do. Instructions are the things that you are supposed to do so that you'll be able to experience what God has promised. So get his word, okay, meditate on it, confess it where necessary, act upon it, and both partners, you and your spouse, should be, in agreement where that is concerned. Remember, Jesus said, whatever two people shall agree, whatever two of you will agree. So both of you should be in agreement, okay, where that particular subject or that particular word or that particular increase that you desire, is concerned. And once you do that, enter into rest, give God thanks for it, knowing that whatever God has promised, God is able to do, especially if you are following whatever instructions that he has told you to do. Remember John chapter 2, I believe it's verse 5, the Bible says, whatever he tells you to do, do it. So the proof that you believe in his promises, the proof will be that you are willing to follow the instructions that he gives for you to be able to achieve and fulfill those promises. Alright, so that's how I believe you can work together as a couple to achieve financial increase. One of the things that you must appreciate as an individual is difference.
difference. No two families are exactly the same. Whether it is difference in your career, difference in your income, not the volume of income, but the income type. So you can't say at what point is it that a family, for some families, it's better you do it before you have children, if it is possible. Okay? For some, it doesn't make any sense for you to do it before you have children. Remember Proverbs 24, I believe verse 27. The Bible says, prepare your work without, make it fit for yourself in the field. Afterwards, build your own. So what that tells you is establish your business first before you start thinking about building out. So it depends. Just remember difference. If you have excess cash at hand at a time where your responsibilities are not much, it makes a lot of sense to tie that down in owning an asset. Okay, it just makes sense. But remember again, it depends on your career type. It depends on your business type. If you have excess cash, if you were a businessman, maybe that will be something that you may want to put to strengthen your business, to expand your business, okay, before you start having responsibility. So it depends, different. But just take hold of that scripture, prepare your work without making fit for yourself in the field. Afterwards, build your own. Especially, it's important to establish your career. Whatever it is, that's going to be your stream of income ultimately. Okay, establish it, make sure it's established before you start thinking about building. Now, let me just quickly add another perspective to it. Now, again, I give you figures. There are many ways to slice this owning a house. Don't be under any pressure. Owning a house issue. Just a perspective. This is not cast in stone, just a perspective. If you build a property that is worth 100 million, and of course, that property, once you own it, it begins to appreciate in value as well. So you own a property worth 100 million, and then you live in it for 10 years. After 10 years, let's assume that property is worth 150, and then you lived in it, and you'd have saved yourself paying rent for 10 years. The question you need to ask yourself, especially if you're a businessman like me, is if I take this 100 million and I turn it over, I use it in business, what would I have earned in 10 years? Then, if I want to live in this kind of house exactly, what will be the cost of renting this kind of house exactly? Okay, so at the end of 10 years, I would have lived in exactly this kind of house. I would have invested that money. If I'm able to make, as a businessman, I'm able to make in 10 years, turn 100 million to 300 million. If all that your own 100 million has become is 150 million by the appreciation of that property, and you saved a 2.5 million naira rent or a 3 million naira rent over 10 years, which is you saved 30 million, and I have made 300 million, and I spent 30 million on the accommodation. Now I have 270. You have 150. Which makes more business sense. So that's why I said it depends on who is making the decision and how you're making that decision. So don't put yourself under pressure. Understand your context. But if you have more money, it makes a lot of sense to tie it down and you can have an asset. Now, in building a property, you may also want to consider the type of property that you're building. Some people build magnificent houses that are not utility houses, such that if there's any reason for them to either relocate or vacate that property, they cannot get the best value without selling. So you want to consider what kind of building do I want to build? What is the value I'm going to get from that building? Is it a rental building I want to do? You decide all those kind of things. Your first building doesn't have to be a house you're going to live in. What if you build an event center? What if you build this? What if you build that? What if you build an office complex? What if you build a block of shops? Do you understand? So the important thing is that you're able to convert excess cash or whatever it is that is coming to your hands into an asset for the family, ultimately. So that's my perspective where that is concerned. So the African mindset is that you retire when you are tired. And this, when you are no longer productive, that's when you retire. That's when you've served. That's a concept. What retire? People retire at 35, people retire at 30, people retire at 40. So the concept of retirement is that it's not that you have gotten to a phase where you're now no longer strong or active. We need to first clarify that. So when you say what happens at retirement, if you're 40, for instance, your life continues after 40, you're still there, you're still flying about the place, jumping about the place. But I think in answering this question from the way the question was framed, when you get to that particular age where you are not as strong and as productive as you used to be, if you have done well with a lot of decisions along the line, by that age you would have reduced your liability to a very large extent. Now, sorry to use the word liability where children are concerned, but you wouldn't be paying school fees at that age. You won't have high bills on your children at that age. If you've done well also, you wouldn't have recurrent bills from things like rent and all those kind of things. So ordinarily, by the time you're entering that retirement phase, your recurrent expenditure should have dropped significantly, and your assets should have been solidified. Your bottom line, there I go with that word again. I didn't explain that, but I won't explain it here. But your bottom line should have been raised significantly. So at that age, what you need to do is to just ensure the smooth running of the structure that you have spent your whole life to create. Okay, so that's the phase where you're no longer interested in high risk ventures. What you want to do is to make sure that the value of what you have inflation does not catch up with it. Okay, that's all you need to do, and to ensure that whatever you're making on an annual basis on what you already have, you're able to, even out of that, extract something again for the investment and all those kind of things. But you want to ensure also that your health, you take care of your health. So there has to be a significant budget out of whatever you're making, to be able to manage, to look after yourself. I only say look after yourself. We're not talking about medical treatments only. We're talking about eating the correct kind of food, having a kind of lifestyle, that will support longevity, and all those kind of things. And of course, medical checks and tests and all that, because anything that is found early can be arrested early, and all that. So the important thing is that your liability at that age must have dropped significantly. Okay, and then you must continue to build on what you've established over the years. Retirement is it's now a time to use your energy, not necessarily on things that are money generating, because you have created a system to generate money. So you can volunteer to do anything. I mean, you don't need money. We see some people in their mid 60s, in their early 70s, volunteering to serve in charitable organizations and all that, because they're not working for any kind of money. They've created a system that pays them. So what you should focus on in your early years is to build that system. And then when you get to that phase, you enjoy that system and you keep running that system. I believe that answers the question. My closing thoughts. There's a lot to learn about money. Not possible to learn in an hour, or a week, or a year. Keep learning, keep growing. Reverend always says that you may graduate out of school, you cannot graduate out of learning. So this is just to engage your thinking. Take it further from here. Be deliberate. Reverend would say that gravity is a natural phenomenon. Of trust is a deliberate initiative. Nobody falls up, people fall down. Okay, so if you're going to go up, you have to take responsibility for it. Nobody becomes accidentally rich. Nobody becomes accidentally wealthy. The people who won lotteries and all that, check their life after some time, they are back to where they started from. Okay, because you have to be able to sustain the wealth and all that. So my challenge to you is keep growing, keep reading, find out what works, and then stay committed to what works. I believe that the years and the days that are ahead are super loaded with a lot of possibilities for you and I. So let's take advantage of it. God bless you. And thank you for your time. In Jesus' name. All right. So if you have any question as per what we discussed, or things a bit outside the scope of what we discussed as far as finance and family finance is concerned, please feel free to put those questions in the chat room. We'll look through them and then we'll respond to them. Thank you.